Hello again. Well, I'm just down here at my local sports club, and as you can see, beautiful surroundings, a lovely place to do a bit of filming, especially on a lovely sunny day like today. Quite windy, but you might not pick that up on the microphone. Anyway, a few of you have been messaging me, asking me which is the new bike, the surprise that I mentioned at the end of the Chic project. I mentioned I had another one coming. Well, this is it, and for the eagle-eyed of you, you'll know it's a very rare bike. So it's a 1991 rest of the world, 1990 in Japan, M for the rest of the world, L for Japan. So it's a we'll talk about it, where it came from. So it's a 1990 L SP. It's a full power, as in pucker, close ratio gearbox, dry clutch SP in the classic 3-stripe, 3 blue colours that everybody wants. It's a genuine bike, straight from Japan. I actually picked it up yesterday. That might be a few days time for the rest of you. I'll have a little walk round, but as you can see, she's all there. Mirrors I do have, but they get taken off to go in the crate. But apart from that, she is all there. Now, it's another bike for Rob, who's the owner of the Chic project, who's absolutely made up with the Chic, by the way. Sorry about the camera wobble, it's the wind. Anyway, I took the Chic to him and we swapped, and I picked this beautiful bike up, and I'm really excited. I can't wait to get stuck into this one. I've got my own SP. Mine's an SP2, so no close ratio gearbox, and mine's in the triangulated blue and white colours, but it's the same year. So I've got a good reference point for what nuts and bolts, fasteners, what they should all be, because mine's completely standard as well, unrestored. So a really good project to get stuck into, and I actually can't wait. So I'll grab the camera and we'll do a little bit of a in-depth bits and bobs, and I'll show you the differences between an SP and a standard sort of UK bike, because lots of UK bikes came in these colours. I'll show you the differences between an SP and a non-SP bike. So if we start at the front, one of the main differences with an SP are the front forks, especially on these 91 bikes, because they have this collar here, which later models don't have. So you'll notice at the bottom of the forks there's an adjuster, that's compression damping, and that isn't on a standard bike. And we get drilled discs with alloy centres, whereas they're steel and not drilled, but they have slots cut into them, about 4 or 5 slots as we go around. And a Japanese market bike has these lovely small, quite cool smoked lens indicators, whereas a UK bike has more of a teardrop square end. And also, let me move the camera. You'll notice an SP always has black number boards. So there's a number board on the front, obviously the headlights in there, and they have sports production. Now my sports production, I've got a photo of this, has, because it's an SP2 with a normal gearbox, my sports production has a 2 at the end of it. So that's another difference. I'm having to hold the camera. It's just too windy. The stand just blew over. Anyway, this difference is slightly harder to spot, but the bottom yokes are aluminium on an SP, whereas on a standard bike they're cast steel. All for lighting purposes, I guess. So as we move around, nothing too dissimilar. Clocks wise are all exactly the same. Switch gears the same. Top of the forks, the adjusters, the rebound and the preload are the same. But if we move down to the side here, to the side of the engine, you can just about see that, and that is a dry clutch, and that makes this bike very special indeed. It's fantastic when you ride these bikes and you park them up at a bike cafe or whatever, and you rock into the car park and you can hear the dry clutch rattling. It really is quite a special feeling. Now you'll notice there's a little bit of lock wire there on the sump plug, drilled sump plug, so this bike has been on track at some point in its life, although I doubt it's been raced because everything's original. It would have pattern plastics on it, there'd be bound to be some crash damage, whereas the foot pegs, as you can see, never been down the road, neither is the brake lever. Plastics look fairly original, in fact very original. Exhaust, it just smacks of it's been on track to do a track day to me at not very high speed. So if we move along, there is another little difference with an early M, and it's the rider's seat. So the rider's seat is narrower there and wraps around the plastics more, whereas a UK bike is a flatter seat. A very subtle difference, but it is something to pick up on. So if we look down here, the oil tank has leaks everywhere by the looks of it. I've not investigated yet, but it does appear that that's just an oil tank leak, because they're on this side under the seat cowl. So yeah, oil everywhere, but it'll stop it corroding. If we move along, the exhausts are in good condition. Maybe a little tiny scrape there, but that'll clean up. Now another major difference between an early M and any later bikes is the 3 vents on the seat cowl. Now the seat cowl, it's not just that, the plastics, because they take a different subframe, so that underneath the subframe will be slightly different. Now this bike also has a very special single seat cover. We have a feeling it's original Suzuki, but I can't verify that until I get the thing off. If there's any codes underneath, production codes like you get inside the fairing, that could prove or disprove that fact. So as we move around, something I'm going to an uncut mudguard, which is always good to see, and there's the chassis number, the original manufacturer's barcode, so it states the model RGV250FL, and the colourway is the 3SH. So I'm under strict orders that slightly wonky barcode sticker has to stay on and has to be original. So I'm having a little think about that. I might have to steam it off, preserve it, and then stick it back on, because these plastics will need some heat gun and clean up treatment. As we move around, there's a bit of something must have been to stop it rattling there. I can actually take it out. So there's the remote reservoir with a lot of Japanese writing on there. I don't know what it says. I don't claim to learn no Japanese. And the bike's obviously been sat outside for a long time, because you can see the chain pretty rusty there, and the hugger is almost white because it's obviously got sun damage. It's been in the sun. So even though most bikes are always damaged on the right hand side because they lean over on the left, this one's obviously been leaning towards, predominantly towards the sun. And we've even got down there, this is how original the bike is, we've even got the overflow hose from the airbox. So an SP also had, you can't really see him now, try and go in. An SP also had an upgraded shock compared to a standard bike. So hence the reservoir. But later bikes had the same setup, so I think UK bikes 91 would have that on, but not like the VJ21s. The early bikes didn't have the remote reservoir, so they had an inferior shock absorber on them. There are things in the engine which are slightly different. So obviously the close ratio gearbox and the straight cut heads, so the plug goes in straight, and they use a shorter plug so they don't catch. I'll just go in. So they don't catch on the front wheel. Let's just move around. Yeah, there you can see. So the plug's straight, not angled like a normal non-SP bike. But all in all, it's I would say a totally original bike by the looks of it. It's not crying out that it's been in bits or it's been raced and put back together. It just, all the bolts standard, nothing seemed out of place. So it's going to be a light restoration, this bike. Obvious things like the forks, I'm going to have to strip those because they're rusted on the stanchions, so they're getting stripped and re-chromed, only because they have to be. Can't leave them like that. Things like the headlight subframe, rusty, so they'll get blasted and painted. We're going to paint rather than powder coat, because that's what would have originally been done at the factory. Everybody tends to use powder coat, and I did use powder coat on the shit because it's a beautiful finish. However, he wants this bike to be a light restoration with minimal paintwork. Well, in fact, we think we're even going to get away with no paintwork, because we've got some spare plastics that might be in better condition. So this cracked seat cowl, we've got a better one in exactly the same colours off exactly the same bike. So I'm just going to make good of everything we've got. But I can't tell you how excited I am to do this one. It's a beautiful bike. So first port of call will be give it a good deep clean, and I think I'm going to just check the power valves out. Might just give it it turns over, nothing's locked, so we might just go for a little start, see if we can get her running and see what's what. So if she runs, we'll have a little listen to her, but that's for another day. This was an intro mainly to introduce the bike and what's the next project from Born Again Bikes. So she's a beauty. She's an absolute beauty. the classic RGV that everybody craves for, especially in SP1. Hello there and welcome to the episode 2 of the VJ22L/M-SP. That's recommission restoration, and really that is the point of this video today. So Rob, the guy who owns the bike, has been having a think about it and he wants to go down the route of recommission only at the moment. So that's basically get the bike running, get everything working, anything that needs doing for the MOT, get that done, and a deep clean basically. So I'll be stripping all the plastics off, getting those buffed by my man who does the painting. He'll buff them up and get them looking as good as possible with no paint whatsoever. So there are a few obvious things that we need to do, but we're not going to go down the road of rezinking, repainting, vapor blasting basically. So if I run through the bike, I'll show you what on the surface needs to be done at this point. So back tyre is up, so we don't know how old it is, how long it's been on there. I can look at the date on it. Well, what we'll do is I'll grab the camera and we'll go around the bike and let's have a look what needs doing. So if we start at the front of the bike, the two main things you'll spot: front brake is absolutely solid, it won't push past there and there's nothing there. So I would suggest there's a blockage, the pistons are seized in the caliper, and or other things. So that's priority on the list. Before we get to that point, you'll notice fork seals chucking oil out, and that's because you'll see the chrome's pitted. Doesn't matter too much down there as operation because only under really heavy braking, but those there are what's caused it. That's in the normal travel, but obviously they could fail an MOT, those ones down there anyway. So the biggest job on the bike really is to strip the forks and get the stanchions hard chromed. If we look round the other side, not quite as bad pitting at the front, but strangely at the side. So, and that's chucking oil out, like as you can see. So priority is get the front end out, get the forks out, get them stripped, get them off the chrome soon as, because they take 2 to 3 weeks to get re-chromed. And while we're doing that, while those are away, I can be sorting the brakes out, putting in a better front tyre, and we've got some tyres, decent ones, so a new front tyre on there, well not brand new but good second hand tyre. obviously get the bike running is probably equal priority, which I'll do before I take the front end out. Excuse me, before I take the front end out. So that's today's job. I'll just be checking for decent spark. I'll just be checking for a decent spark. I'll have the carbs off, make sure they will be gunked up. I'll clean those out. I'll check the gearbox oil to make sure there's some in there. I'm pretty sure there will be, but I won't leave it to chance, and we'll get the thing running. So that's the two major jobs on the bike. Another big job is a deep clean. So inside, all down here, obviously you've seen me do it, give it a degrease and a hose down, but we're going to go a bit deeper than that and clean up the engine, but we'll make sure the thing's running first, and then moving on after that, we're probably going to do strip plastics off and get them off to my painter. We've got two sets of plastics, so we're going to make the best of them. I'm pretty sure the spare we've got hasn't got that mess on the side, that scratch and crack. The rear shock is looking a bit furry, but I'll clean that up and we'll see what it comes out. All the nuts and bolts, there's no zinking going on. Even things that are really rusty, I'm just going to clean them up, maybe give them a wipe with some WD and see what it looks like. It's going to be a huge cleaning job as much as anything, this bike. And then we'll need a battery so we can get the electrics working. I'll check through all the electrics once the battery, we've got a new battery for it. The electrics will work with the engine running, but it's better to put a new battery on. They start better, and it could damage something in the electrics without having a healthy battery on it. So that's another priority. But apart from that, that's where we're going to go with this bike. So it's a deep recommission, really. Make sure everything's working as it should. Make sure it'll get through an MOT, and what we have can look as good as it possibly can without any deep processes done to it. So it should be an interesting one. I mean, the rule of why we're doing this is basically Rob wants to keep patina and keep it original. You can always revisit the bike in the future and do a proper job on it, but the cost of that and the time is restrictive, and he wants to actually use the bike instead of just waiting for it and then looking at it when it's done. So I think it's a good idea, and it keeps an original bike. It looks okay initially. I mean, this shot here now, it probably looks quite a tidy bike, but then, as you've already seen, you go in tight and things are messy. That's what we'll say. Wheels, I'll give those a deep clean T-cut, see what they come up like. But yes, that's where I'm heading with this bike, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I have got the bike on the bench. I've had to take the front wheel out because the tyre was that flat, it was like square shaped. So I put a spare wheel in that I've got without discs, and that enabled me to push it up the ramp. I haven't got, my ramp has stopped going up and down through years of use. So yeah, I had to put that front wheel in so I could push it up with the ramp. Anyway, let's just have a look back here. So I have taken the battery out, which had 0.3 volts in it and was absolutely furry and rotten. Obviously I was going to replace the battery anyway, so no problem. So I've rigged up jump leads to, I'll just come around this side. I've got an old car, well it's out of I've got a Mercedes van. So it's a big old battery, so it's no good for the van for starting, but it holds loads of charge. And it's handy to keep in the workshop. So I've rigged that battery up. Then I've come round and they never cease to amaze me, these old Japanese. It's 30 Japanese bikes. It's 35 years old, this bike, and we don't know how long it's been stood. It's pretty furry, as you've seen. It's pretty furry. Anyway, so I've rigged the battery up and I've turned the key, and lo and behold, neutral light's working. Then I've tapped the horn. It works perfectly. Then I've gone, oh, indicators flashing perfectly. Let's go to the right. Oh yes. Well, what do you know? That is Japanese reliability, we'll call it. I'll just turn those off and then I'll put the lights on. So side light works, headlight works, does high beam work? Oh, it's on high beam. And low beam works. Look at that. High beam, low beam. Have we got a backlight? Let's just have a look. Oh yeah, we've got a backlight. And then this switch on me, I've just wedged it to keep the brake light off, so you can hear it clicking. It won't stay off. Oh yeah, we've got brake lights too, and a number plate board light. So I'm not going to get away with loads of bills for getting things working, am I? So everything works. I guess we put tyres on this, it would pass an MOT. Once it's running, we put tyres on it. In fact, the back tyre would pass an MOT. Doesn't matter how old they are. And the front tyre, let's have a quick look that I've just shoved in, the front wheel. Oh, we would get an advisory on that. Let's have a look. Look, we'd get an advisory. So I could probably get this bike running this afternoon on a dummy fuel tank. That's the one thing that's holding me back, because I can't get into the tank. But I could probably get this bike running and go and MOT it, despite what it looks like. Oh, it's tickled me. So, oh, right. So let me turn the lights off. Right. So it's going to be a bit hard to see. But down there, see the plug? Down there's the plug. Now, if I can hold steady enough, I've got, I don't know if you can see that. You can hear it. I've got a spark. So, therefore, with a battery and with fuel, this bike will run. All I need to do is, I'm going to take the tank off and have a look at the carbs, which are bound to be furry and sludgy and horrible. So I'm going to take those off next, as a matter of course. I'll show you what they're like once I get them off. So this is the airbox lid with the filter in, and I've just taken the lid off, turned it over, and this will make you laugh. Let's get a finger. It's just dust. It's just, it looks perfect and it's turned to dust. You put a finger through it. Hilarious. So this bike has been sat for a long time. I'm going to guess at least a decade for that filter to go like that. At least a decade. Yeah, here we are at the, I've just taken the tank off and the airbox lid, so there's some dust from the airbox, the filter there. The fuel pipe snapped as soon as I lifted the tank, so that needs new rubber. But underneath, that is exactly how the wiring goes when they come out of the factory. So this bike is a true survivor. The rubber's missing off the tank. Somebody's had that away there. So we need to find one of those. Right, so I've got the carbs on the bench, and I'm just about to drain the rancid, I'm going to call it rancid because it is a rancid fuel, because a little bit's leaked out and it stinks like varnish. So I'll just tip them over one at a time. I think if I just do, which one was leaking now? That one there. I don't think there's much in them, but what did come out absolutely stunk. There's a little few drops coming out. No, I don't think there's actually anything in them. So they're the Mikuni VM34SS twin solenoid 34mm carbs, and as you can see, they are filthy, really dirty, furry on the outside, and I had to just quickly lever up that throttle slide from there because it was stuck. You can see how dirty the needle is. So all the fuel that was in there turned to varnish, which makes it all stick together. So I'm going to strip them down and then I'll show you the insides, see what they're like. I don't know myself yet until we get them apart. Okay. No wonder it stinks. Look at that varnish. That literally is varnish. It absolutely stinks. So I'm going to give these a rinse out with a bit of petrol, fresh petrol, and the jets, oh dear, completely blocked. Main jet's completely blocked, which means pilot jet might be beyond saving down that hole there. So I'll give these a good clean, and I'll clean the outside as well while I'm at it, and we'll see where that takes me. I just thought I'd show you just how dirty the bike is underneath the plastics and the seat and the tank before I start cleaning it, so we can have a bit of a before and after.
which I'm as excited to see as all you guys will be, apart from I've got to do the cleaning. So I thought about doing this. I literally just cleaned the solenoid and the electrical connector there, which, as you can see, just a little bit of degreasing and wiped it with a rag. It's come up like brand new. So I thought, hang on a minute, I'll just do a bit of before and after. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean inside all this compartment here as best I can. Not going to go daft, but you can see how dirty it is. It's got that usual, I just wipe there with my finger. You can see how dirty that is. So it's got the usual, I call it fug, that all these import bikes seem to come with. There must be a lot of dust in the air in Japan. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you that before I started cleaning it. So see how good I am at cleaning, I guess. I've just managed to get the seat cover for the passenger seat off. So I'll show you what I've found. It's quite interesting. As I discussed with you all at the start when I was going around the bike, that seat cover is just a fiberglass copy. We were hoping it was going to be something original. I always thought you couldn't get these original, but somebody said you could. So it's not, it's fiberglass. So that's that. But look what I found. So I've not even removed it yet, but there's a bag with, looks like a manual, a workshop manual. Sorry about the light, the bulb's going. And something else in there, don't know what that is. A little nozzle for his filling his oil up, whoever's owned the bike. And the toolkit, let's move that. The toolkit is still there, strapped down. Wow. That's brilliant. This bike is such a survivor. Let's open the toolkit and the little bag and see what's in there. So here's that bag. It's quite dirty. Oil. I'll try and keep my hands clean while I'm opening this. Ha! Wow. So we've got a little tyre pressure gauge. Something else in here. I'll have to take the book out to keep my hands clean. Ah, wow. So, another little tool, Allen key tool with a screwdriver, a spare bulb, looks like a side light bulb. I think that's it in the bag. Then we've got this, 2 books in fact. So it's in Japanese obviously. Looks like some kind of owner's manual. Wow, that's incredible. Been folded in half. Personal best, Suzuki. Down there, looks like the model numbers, or the category of model that this book applies to. So it says 99011 22D00, so obviously a VGA22, and then 99010 22D00 set 2, whatever that means. I think there's a date there. It says 43291. Who knows? That's sensational. What history. And the other book, it's a different book. Oh, there's 3. Don't know what that one is yet. This is a different book. Let's turn the light a bit so you can see. That's better. 126cc, whatever that's for. Doesn't make any sense. Wow. It's like parchment paper. Oh, there. Is that original? Don't know what that is. Wow. They're like parchment paper. Nothing's written on them or filled in, it's just printed. It's probably service record. Who knows what it says? Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. And then this little booklet here. So, Suzuki. One, two, three, four. That's actually an older, it's like an RG type bike. Looks like it's telling you what clothing to wear. What to do, what all your, see what your feet and hands do on the bike. Wow. Tells you how to ride it and how to brake. How to sit on the bike. What line to take. Fantastic. How to overtake and filter. Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That's first class. Love it. Let's put that back in, and I'll put that back in a minute. Then here we've got obviously the original toolkit. So I'll tip it all out. Spark plug spanners, that's an extra one, that's not Suzuki. So it's that one. 10 and 12mm spanner, 27mm, 22mm, that's for holding the back wheel, spindle. I think it's a 30 on the other side, but that might be the front wheel, yeah. Well, that's a 27 for the back wheel. C-spanner for the suspension. Original screwdriver, 14, 17mm. A few extra Allen keys, then I don't think they're original. Another bigger Phillips, that's original. The pliers are original. And then there's that's not original, it's too chromy. That's your extension for these spanners to give you more leverage. Fantastic. Brilliant. I'm so glad we found that. Totally original. I've just managed to get the seat units off. Cowlings. And I just thought I'd show you why the swinging arm was covered in oil. Wow. That's leaked. That's what you call a leak. So I'll be cleaning that up now, and I'm going to clean all this subframe up just degrease it all, get all the dust off it. So that's a big job. Time consuming and boring. So as I'm waiting for these jets to come for the carbs, I've been just cleaning from the top down. So I've got all the seat cowl off. There's the seat cowl. So I've had all this under tray out, everything off, and it's coming up quite nice. I know there's rust, we know that, but all this is really cleaned up well. And I've kept the sticker on the back, which is great. Cleaned the tanks, the oil tank and the water tank. Cleaned all the wiring, cleaned all the clips. Cleaned the filthy battery box out. That's nice and clean now. So it's starting to look like a bike that would have been used and kept being used for the last 30 years. It's about the right patina and cleanliness. I think you might agree. So I've cleaned all the wiring up in here. You couldn't even see the colour of the wires. I'm not going overboard because I'd have to strip everything out of the bike and clean it individually. Well, we're on to restoration then. So I'm literally cleaning as best I can in the space allowed and without taking the bike to pieces. So it's looking good. It's looking patinaed. That's the phrase, and you'll keep hearing me say that. So I'm working from the top down, which leads me to, while I'm waiting, the rear footrest from the right hand side, the brake reservoir, which, oh dear, that is very black, and the absolutely disgusting caliper. I mean, most of that's that oil that leaked out of the oil tank. But, wow, I mean, that is disgusting. So I'll be cleaning that off and a full degrease. So I thought I may as well get on with this while I'm waiting. So I thought you might like to see before and after of that. It's pretty putrid. It's going to need a rebuild kit for sure, or at least everything stripping out. More than likely the master cylinders needs a kit because the pedal's solid. It's unlikely to be the seals in the caliper. So I'm going to strip it all down and see what's what. Okay, this is a good few days later when I showed you the gummed up float bowl. So I've got, after many repeats in the ultrasonic cleaner, it eventually turned to like mud, all the varnish that was in the bottom of that. So a good scrub and a bit of a scrape out. There's a few battle scars in there where I've scraped it out, but it's clean. It's clean. It's all out. There's a new seal on the float bowl there. All the jets are clean. The passageways are clean. Everything's been blown out. That side where the power jet hose on the side of the carb goes, that's all clean and blown out. Everything's blown out. New pilot jet. You can't really see. It's too dark in there. You can just see it reflecting. New pilot jet. Had to drill it out, believe it or not, very, very carefully. So that's pretty clean in there. The floats are a bit battered where they've been sat in fuel, but if they float, that's fine. If they don't float, I'll find some more. So I'm going to give it a whirl to see if they work and we don't have any leaks. And I had to replace main jet because one of them was really corroded. I can't remember which one it was. So they run odd jets, these two. They're originally 270, 280s, but I put 260, 270 in there because they're well over jetted and just makes them a bit crisper. So there we are. All the passageways are blown out. The top hat filter there, that's all cleaned out. So any passageway it's had high pressure air put through it. So I'm just assembling them now. I've done the other one. The other one's over here. There's the other one, the left-hand one. And this is the right-hand one, obviously. Big R on it. So get these fitted now. And I might, just might, be showing you a running bike in a bit. Fingers crossed. And then the refreshed carbs, as I've said before, a few new jets and everything blown out. All the pipes cleaned. It's looking quite good. I know the cylinder is still dirty, the head. But I just, at this point, just want to get it running. And once the plastics are off, I'll give it a good clean. Nice shiny new plug in there. There we go. So, not long till start up. Right, well, here we are with, this is a momentous occasion, really. Because, as I said, I reckon this bike's been stood for at least a decade, maybe longer, could be 2 decades. Anyway, as I've shown you a few minutes ago, this is a few days later. I've got new battery in place, and I've got the very long-winded cleaned process of cleaning the carbs. They're back in place with few new jets. Everything's been ultrasonic cleaned and everything's in place. Carbs are balanced on the marks, and this is it. There's water in it. It's still the water that came with it, so I'm going to try and start it, but I'm not going to start it for long. It's basically to see if the thing runs. So here goes nothing. Let's see what happens. Exciting times. Right then, fingers crossed I've done my job properly and this beautiful RGV plays ball. I've just filled the carbs from a remote tank, but it leaks, so I've just filled the carbs, so we've got a carb full of each, and we'll see what happens. How many kicks do you think? I'm going for 5, which is optimistic. Okay, switched on, choke on, let's see what happens. Just move my glasses. Okay. You might be on one cylinder. Probably lack of fuel. Yeah, I think it was on 1 cylinder, but she runs. I think that was lack of fuel, so I'll just top the fuel up. Let's try again. Fuel's topped up. It should go first time this time. Choke's on full. Smoky. Very smoky.
think there's a lack of fuel because it's on a dummy tank and I've only filled the carbs, but it went back onto one. But she is alive. Brilliant news. Brilliant news. It doesn't like to tick over because it needs to be warmed up and on 2 cylinders and probably the airbox and air filter on because we're on open carbs at the moment. But she is alive. Happy days.
Oh. This is an episode about starting to delve into some of the parts, the forks, the brakes, and a few other bits and bobs, mate, and the wheels, and some of and tidying the plastics up. So the bike's in quite a few pieces. The majority of it is still there as such, but forks are out, off to the chromas for the stanchions. So I thought I'd attack the brakes and start having a look at the wheels and plastic. So enjoy this episode. I've enjoyed it up to now, some of the processes, and we should start to see things going back on the bike in episode 5, but enjoy episode 4. Hopefully it's a good watch for you over the weekend. Rear footrest from the right hand side, the brake reservoir, which, oh dear, that is very black, and the absolutely disgusting caliper. I mean, most of that's that oil that leaked out of the oil tank, but wow, I mean, that is disgusting. So I'll be cleaning that off and a full degrease. So I thought I may as well get on with this while I'm waiting. So I thought you might like to see before and after of that. It's pretty putrid. It's going to need a rebuild kit for sure, or at least everything stripping out. More than likely the master cylinders needs a kit because the pedal's solid. It's unlikely to be the seals in the caliper. So I'm going to strip it all down and see what's what.
A nice cup of tea to start this little project. This afternoon's task is rebuilding the rear caliper. There's lots to do on this bike, but I'm just doing a little process at a time, getting boxed off. I'll just swing round actually, because the forks have gone off. So the bike is there with no front end on it. Forks are off for chroming of the stanchions. So I'm getting on with smaller jobs. So rear caliper, I've given it a quick refurb, not anything tremendous because I want to keep a bit of patina. It's not a perfect paint job, but that's how I wanted it to make it sit in with the bike. And I've cleaned up the sliding part which pushes the outer pad in. So we've got cleaned up pistons which are in good nick, good condition. Cleaned the retaining bracket. These sit inside the pistons. I think they're to stop squeak, brake squeak. Oh, we don't need that. Cleaned up the nipple. That rubber cleaned up fine. Had to order a new one, so I've got a genuine Suzuki rubber boot there. New pads, nothing spectacular. It's only the rear brake and the seals, which weren't leaking and are in good condition, cleaned up. So I was going to just do a little film because some of you might not have done this before. I might be showing you, a lot of you how to do something you already know, but lots of you out there wouldn't have a clue because you've never done it, which is fair enough. So I'll just put this together quickly and I'll show you the process. So I've put the seals in. Just wipe it there. I've put the seals in. You smear, I should have shown you this, but it's a bit fiddly. So you smear some fresh brake fluid around the main seal inside and the dust seal, seat them in the grooves, and then you smear brake fluid around the pistons and get them perfectly straight and pop, just push them and they pop in. So they're in place now. Right. So the next thing to do is fit the two rubber boots. So that one's existing, that one's fine. I got a brand new one, like I said earlier. So this one goes through that orifice there. Now I'll just use a bit of slippy brake fluid because this can be a bit awkward to get through here. So as it's swollen up when you take them out, it's going. Now, right, eventually I've got the rubber in. That was not easy. I'm glad I didn't film it all because it took me about 10 minutes just to get that rubber through. So that's in. The other one, the boot, literally just slips over that. So this should just pop on, to be honest. Okay. Should just pop on, he says. Yeah, that's on. So brand new rubber there. Existing rubber, which was fine. Next, put the retaining arm. They're threaded, so this is what bolts to the swinging arm bracket. Can only go one way because these prongs get greased and go into the rubbers. Grease on them, plenty of grease. Grease inside the rubber. And that one. And then literally that just slides in. There we go. That's it. It's good. And that should slide freely back into, which it does, which it didn't before. It can't have been seized, but I think it was just old grease and years of accumulation of dirt. I'll put the bleed nipple back in. Just do it finger tight because we'll be bleeding the system anyway. Next goes in the pads. In fact, we'll put these in next. They just slide in, pop in. They push on the back of the pad, the inner pad. So this retaining clip goes in like that, and it's got a bit of spring on it to push the pads in tension. So the inside pad clicks in like that, and the spring's pushing tension onto it, so it pushes up, so keeps it in place. Tension on that spring, and then the outer pad slides over the arms of the, or the pins if you like. There we go. I thought the hole wasn't quite big enough, but there it says. Just need to get it absolutely square to get it on. They're very, very tight on tolerance. So you get one side on, the other side won't go. I'll just have to file the hole slightly bigger, I think. I think it's just the thickness of the paint. Okay, I've just filed a little bit out on the outer edge of the pad frame. Just, it was ever so slightly small. Just manufacturing tolerances, I guess. So there you go. Pads are in place. You just have to hold them back when you refit them on the disc. And that's how it works. Just slide that back. There we go. You can see how the boot keeps the grease in. That's it. So that's one refurbished caliper ready to go back on.
Right. So the next little job is taking the tyres off, and I've done a video of this. Have a look through my previous videos and you'll see me doing the home tyre removal system with a spade, of all things. So there's the rear that I've got to do soon, and it's in the sun, soaking, getting soft. And here's the other one that I've just done. Front tyre, bare rim there. So I'll show you the other one when it's removed. You don't need to see it again, it's already on my channel. And there we are, 2 stripped wheels. Just got to take the disc off the rear, and I'll take the rubbers out for the sprocket and cut the valves off, and we're done. They're ready for prep and repaint. They're getting painted, not powder coated. It's a bit of a better process, less thick and more original looking. Right, after many hours of rubbing down, I've finally got the wheels prepped. So they just need wipe down with some panel wipe, and then they're going to get painted. They were a right mess. I can't tell you how long it's took me, hours and hours. But they've come up well, nice and smooth, and hopefully they turn out as good as the ones on the Schick. Unlikely, because the Schick were a beautiful graphite grey colour, but we'll get these done, and that's a big step, real big step, because new tyres are going on then, and I can get the bike rolling next week when I get the forks back. The fork stanchions being away, chromed, so I'll get the forks back, get them built, and get the bike on 2 wheels again, which makes it more steady, and I can crack on with cleaning up all that swinging arm. Okay, so there are tools. I'll show you the tool. There's this tool which goes inside, so those knurled jaws go inside, and you open it up and you do that, and you force it and you start turning, but as you'll see, they slip. So what I do is I use the ratchet and socket method. So what you do is you basically put a socket in there, you have to get your size correct, and you wedge it, and it wedges on the ball of the extension bar like that there. Just move the camera up a little bit. So what you do is you turn, and it eventually it grips, and you turn it like that, And as you turn, you pull. I'll just get it turning. I've had it moving once. So you turn, you keep turning. Ah, it's turning now. So you see it's turning. So as you turn, you pull upwards and you use the ratchet. That's it, it's coming. Keep turning. And just bit of upward pull as you turn. There we go, it's out. No damage. I use old sockets, but there we go. And the pistons are in quite good condition. I'm literally just stripping these calipers, giving them a damn good clean and putting them back together, because there were no leaks. Some of you might say put new seals in, but I tend to just have a check them out, and if the seals look good and they're not leaking, just give them a good clean and clean behind to get all the congealed brake fluid out, and a good scrub, and they're generally all right. You can tell if the seals are knackered. So I'm just, it's not penny pinching, it's just really not spending money where you don't have to. The purists out there will say, oh, you have to replace everything no matter what, but reality is you don't. And if they leak, then I'll put seals in, but there's nothing lost by trying it. So you might say, oh, you're doing it twice. Yeah, but it's only a bit of time, and not much time, to be honest. So there we go. That's my little technique for getting pistons out that are seized. These weren't seized, they were just really tight, but I thought I'd show you, and it's a good technique. Well, I'm back from France after my holidays, and the first job I've done is rebuilt these front calipers that I cleaned up when I went away, before I went away. So I've stripped them down, took all the seals out, cleaned all the crud out of the grooves for the seals, all had a good scrub, degreased, soapy wash, and all the fasteners bolts cleaned up. These are rezinked banjo bolts because the other ones were too rotten, but they've cleaned up quite nice, and they've still got the look about them, so they should all be good to go. They're absolutely mint clean in the bits that matter. So yes, they're not the best looking on the outside, they're a bit scabby, but it suits the patina of the bike, and I know they're good. So the forks are just away, getting re-chromed, the stanchions and the fork footer bottoms that the stanchions screw into, they've been away getting vapoured. I didn't really want to get anything vapoured, but not really a good idea to strip forks completely and not give them a good going over. So the tubes aren't getting re-anodised or anything like that, but the internals, they're all on the bench ready to go back in. So they should be ready next week. Then I can make a bit of progress. I don't really want to touch the bike while it's on stands with no front ending, because it's all right, it looks okay, but it's a bit unstable. So once the front end's back in next week, I'll be cleaning up all that swinging arm, getting the shock out, cleaning up the front of the engine, getting the pipes off, etc, etc. Okay, right, the next dilemma is, as you can see, I've got a load of plastics behind, sat on the table. So we've got two sets of plastics, side panels, tailpiece and V-piece. We haven't got a spare nose cone because the spare we've got is an SP2 one, so it's exactly the same colour, but it just says Sports Production 2 on the front, so we can't use that one. So we're stuck with the original for that. But the side panels, I've got to go through them and choose the best.
along with the V piece and the tail piece. So let's have a look and see what we've got. Right, okay, so mudguard's easy because I've only got one of those. So the mudguard, no dilemma there. V piece, there's the original, which is yellowed. It's in good condition, but it has yellowed. So this one is the spare one, which, as you can see, does look in better condition. So I think I'm going to go with that one. Right, so move that out of the way. Tail pieces. This one here is the original that came with the bike. However, it's definitely got a crack there and a spoiled decal, a scuff there. All the lugs are intact. I mean, don't worry about the dirt, but it will clean up. Not as well. Let's move the mudguard. Not as well as this one. This one is in better condition. The bracketry is better. The paint works better. No cracks. Only thing different, which isn't great, is the number board decal is a bit damaged. So do we go for the better coloured part of the panel, or do we go for the better number board? Now you could probably argue that that small crack and tear through the decal is not as bad as that on the number board. However, that could just be touched in with a marker pen and we're done there. But there's no damage to the actual panel itself. However, that's got a crack in the panel. Is it a crack? Well, turns out it's not. So it's a damage to the decal. I'm gonna have to have a think about that. Be nice to keep the one that was original on the bike. However, the spare one is cleaner, but dirt is nothing. Okay, I'll think about that. Right, so now we'll move on to the side panels. So these two, as you can see, it's not actually damaged, that down there. That is something stuck to the tape. I think somebody's used tape to hold it together. Now, does that say that there's damage to the lugs? Possibly. But the rest of that will clean up. There's a couple of small scuffs. The graphics are really good on that one, on the left hand side spare. And the graphic, let's bring it over. The graphics on the other spare, the right hand side, are really good, apart from the lacquer. Sorry, the laminate has come off. I'll pull it. Oh, that's all right. That's in good nick. Really good. But there's a little scratch through the Suzuki logo and more yellowing, which will come off. Whereas the original, more smaller scuffs. However, there'll be more damage soon. However, there's a bit of damage down there. What's the other one like? Yeah, so that scratch is quite deep.
So, another decision to make. It might be a case of, let's look at the other one, the last one, the right hand side spare. I'm not sure they're as good. Sorry, that's not the spare, that's the original. That's the original. So are they as good? Or is it a case of use the right hand side spare one, that one. I'm tempted to go with the spares because the bit that you see, the blue bit, the Suzuki bit and underneath obviously is more out of sight. So I'm tempted to go with the spares because the blue graphics are slightly better. That's the original, that's the spare. The colours slightly different, but they're all original, genuine Suzuki graphics. I've got a couple of decisions to make there. So I think what I'll do is I'll give them a good wash, degrease, and maybe see what they look like after that. So I'll see you in a bit. Right, so a couple of days later from showing you the plastics, I've been busy polishing, T-cutting, using elbow grease, and I've got some results. So let's have a look, see what we've got. So here we are, it's all laid out. Sorry if the sound's a bit bad, it's quite windy this afternoon. So yeah, here we are, all laid out. And I eventually, after my dilemmas, I did go with the spare set of side panels, as I thought I might, because they were in slightly better condition. But I managed to get all the debris off them, and there's remnants of the sticky tape, complete degrease. I'll show you the back actually first. So yeah, around the heat shield, that was absolutely covered in oil, manky. There are a few remnants of tape there, but I didn't want to go too far. The stuff that came off easily did, but it's inside the fairing, you won't see it. But let's turn it back round. So the right hand one there, I mean, beautiful, shiny. It's really polished back well. Plenty of elbow grease, cutting compound. Yeah, we know about the scratch on the Suzuki, but the bike, as I keep going on, you're probably sick of me saying it, but it is a patina bike, and we don't want some things to look new and some things to look really bad or really worn. So it's finding that balance. But I think you'll agree, you can see by the shine on them, these have come back lovely. So they're the two side panels. Ironically, both got a scratch on the Suzuki at the bottom. The V piece, not a lot of change really, just give that a thorough cut back, clean. That was already in good condition. Now the tailpiece, as I was saying at the time a few days ago, the tailpiece, I did go with the spare set, because that had the slight bit of black damage down there, but I've just used a black marker pen and you just literally can't see it. So that, you can see by the shine on the decals there. That's brilliant, that's really good, that one. I'll show you around the back of it, the other side. So the luster and the sheen has come back. Just shows the quality of these graphics from 35 years ago from Suzuki. It's sensational really. Yeah, so still a few faint scratches and discoloration, but that's what we want. In fact, my main decision for choosing this one was the other one was split on that corner. So the top, there was a crack down the middle and the top had come away from the bottom, and it was really noticeable. So the back of this one is in fantastic condition, hence choosing this set. And then mudguard, there's a couple of marks on it, nothing major where it's rubbed on the fairing or brake lines or whatever. I mean, that's coloured plastic, so that isn't even paint. There we go, there's the genuine code on it. So that's come back lovely. And the nose cone, look at the shine on it. The screen was destroyed, so I've unclipped the screen, and we've got another screen off another fairing, so that can go on. But that is beautiful. Okay, there's a bad scratch there, but that is the only thing on that fairing really. There's a little bit of a scratch on the side which somebody's touched in previously. Tiny mark there, but it's all in keeping with the appearance of the bike. There's a bit of discoloration there where it's rubbed off, but all in all, I mean, got a good sheen to it again on this piece. So all in all, oh, and I cleaned up the inside of that as well, so that was quite filthy actually. But I'm pleased and I can't wait to see what this bike looks like. But all in all, yeah, that's a nice set of plastics now. So I'd like to show you a little before and after. I'm quite pleased with how it's turned out. So watch this space. So what we have are the exhaust cans. Now I think I showed you these when I first went around the bike, but as you can see, they're not in great shape. Somebody's painted black around the welds, and they're generally quite manky and rusty. I'll just flip it around on the end there. Rusty, mouldy even. Quite a bit of unburnt two-stroke knocking around. Rust under the bracket. Does it focus? Focus, yes. Rust under the bracket. So how on earth we're going to get these looking good again? Well, this is how. Here's one I prepared earlier, as they say. So I've used wired drill bits and let me just get hold of it properly. And they're like a grey Scotch-Brite that painters use to scrub down the paintwork. And I used it like on a back and two pull left hand, pull right hand, back and two motion, and it's turned out far better than I thought. I know there's little marks in the metal where the rust has been, but for originality, and the Suzuki wording looks brilliant, it's given a really nice finish. Some light scratches. I'll just flip it round, and on the back where all that rust was on the other one, yeah, okay, there's a few marks, but that's hidden. And don't forget, as I'll say again, it's patina, and that's what we're after. But they'll look great on the bike, they really will. Excuse my dodgy camera work. They'll look great on the bike. So one down, one to go. Right, well, I've been out this morning and I've collected the fork stanchions, so we'll have a bit of unwrapping of that. You've seen these on the previous video. So as I said, these weren't too bad, these fork leg bottoms. However, I thought it was crazy to strip the forks and get them re-chromed and not get these vapoured. It probably will look a bit new on the bike, but the plastics look great. A few other bits and bobs look really good, so it'll be fine, and it's the proper way of doing things. So we've got both of those, left and right. So that's those. So, and in here, I'll just move those away. So in here we have, I know we have because I've seen them. Let's just get a blade. We have got some stunning re-chromed fork tubes. Now I take them to a guy called Steve Kelson in a place in Cheshire, Sandbach, and he just knows what he's doing. So you can see they don't chrome past the threads, they chrome to that point, and you can see how thick the chrome is there. You can see a slight line. Ian, the man who I dealt with, said it's about 12 thousandths of an inch thick, whereas, I think I've said this before, standard forks are about 4 to 5 thousandths of an inch of chrome, and the Italian ones, are they Polini or something like that, I'm sure they're only 1 or 2 thou. So you'll spend 140, 50 £50 on replacement stanchions, and as soon as a stone hits them, it's going to put a hole in the chrome. And I don't know if the camera will pick this up. If I zoom in on the hole there, you can actually see a slight, there it is, sorry. You can actually see a slight curvature around the hole. Now that is the thickness of the chrome. So they were very pitted and rusty. So today's process, I'm just waiting for some O-rings for the collars. I'll just show you what they mean. So these collars, I had them vapor blasted and got all the anodizing off. They are a bit marked, but it is what it is. Now these collars have an O-ring in that groove, so I've ordered new O-rings which I'm waiting for. They should be here tomorrow. And on the back, bottom end, sorry, that's where the clip goes. It's like a ring, just like at the seal end of the forks. So they slide over the stanchion, over the outer tube stanchion, sorry, not the fork leg stanchion, and seal. So I can't completely rebuild the forks today, but what I can do is screw them in to the fork legs, the feet, the bottoms, whatever they're called, bottom of the forks. So these, I'll just give them a little wire brush and clean any residue out of those threads. Now these get thread locked into the bottom of the leg. There's an O-ring that sits in the bottom. There's an O-ring that sits down there in that groove, and then the fork stanchion screws into the bottom. Then the valve goes, compression valve goes in there with an O-ring, and the thread lock goes in there, and a small grub screw just to hold it goes in there. So I'm going to do that now, that process. Bear in mind, it's the first time I've ever done it. So taking them apart was the first time I'd ever done it, and putting them back together is the first time as well. So those of you who've done this a lot, look away now. Now here's the left hand side bottom foot. As you can see, the O-ring's in there. Put that O-ring in, so just put a drop of 4-coil around the O-ring, and then I'll be screwing a fork leg in, so that'll have thread lock on it. So I'll be putting this foot in the vise and screwing the leg into it. So I've got the thread lock. I'm going to put plenty of thread lock around the 4 threads there, stanchion threads, and I'm just going to screw those in as far as they'll go. I think I might even put a slight bit of oil around the base there. So I've put quite a bit of thread lock on the threads because we don't want these coming undone. There you go, quite a bit round there. Just putting a drop of oil around the very bottom of the stanchion there, just so that it slides through the... I've oiled the O-ring as well in the foot, but I don't think that would do any harm, just putting a little drop of oil there as well. Now, let's see how it goes. Right, well, it's going in. It's starting to tighten up now. Right. And the little holes there, I'm going to put a bar through, or a thick screwdriver, and turn the leg until it'll go no more. Obviously, once it won't turn any, like, I'm not going to force it into the foot, but I'll go as far as it'll go. Then we should be good. Perfect. Still going, not really forcing it. Just turning easier now. It must have gone all the way through the thread. Now it's starting to tighten up again. Ah, that's tight. That is tight. That might have even been going through the O-ring. That is tight. Yeah, that's at the bottom. That's good. Then I'm going to, two things to do. A little grub screw goes in there with a tiny bit of thread lock, not too much because they're hard to get out after. And then also I'm going to put the compression valve, adjustment valve back in. So that just needs a little bit of oil around the O-ring and the grub screw. So there is the tiny grub screw. And if you notice, it's not hard, it's not that easy to see, but it's not an Allen key. It's a tiny Torx. So when I had to take these apart, I've got a Torx set, quite a large one there, but I had to go out and buy this pack of small Torx. Well, small up to quite large, but the one I was after was a T7. So the T7's that one there. Now they're very fragile, as you can see. I did twist it slightly, just getting it out. So I'm going to be super careful pushing it in. It might actually twist it back the right way. So a little bit of thread lock on the grub screw. Not a lot, because unlikely these forks ever come apart again, but if they did, we want to make it a little bit easier. So you just do them by hand. And then nip it up. I put it in a socket. It's probably a bit overkill. So that's the next size up, 7 I think. Yeah. Put it in the old adjustable ratchet screwdriver. I think that'll be tight enough, to be honest. Yeah, that's still tightening. It basically makes contact with the threads on the fork. That's tight enough. It's just belt and braces to stop the forks coming undone. However, unlikely when they're bolted in. They're Loctited in, they're bolted at the top, they're in the fork, so it just stops it spinning out. So that's it. Nice and neat and tidy. Beautiful re-chromed fork leg. I'll just put the compression adjuster back in. So a little dab of fork oil on the seal, on the O-ring. Then I'll just push it in then. That's it, it's going now. That's tight nearly. I'll just nip, once I've got it in finger tight, I'll just nip it up. I think it's a 17 spanner. Oh no, 15. Yeah, 15. In fact, might even be a 14. Let's try the 14. Yeah, it's a 14. That's it. That's it. So that's one done. 1 foot with adjuster, pressure adjuster, grub screw, Loctited in. So I'll do the other one now and show you when the pair are done. Okay, that's both fork legs done. I'm quite pleased how easy it was in the end. Hopefully I've done everything right. I think I have. I've been quite methodical, so beautiful. RGV. Fork stanchions re-chromed and vapor blasted. Fork leg feet. Bottoms, whatever you want to call them. So when the fork seals arrive, should be tomorrow, definitely this week, I'll build up the rest of the forks. Nothing spectacular, I'm just putting them back together with new seals, that's it. So not far off putting them back in the bike. Happy days. Well, the front master cylinder repair kit has turned up. So I've cleaned up the master cylinder, which was very manky. And here's the repair kit. We'll just open her up. So in a master cylinder repair kit, you've got the metal plunger, which your lever hits that end. So that sits in there, and that barrel comes out like that. It goes in further than that, but so that goes in there, and that circlip sits on top with that washer, I guess. Some have a washer, some don't. So that goes in there. That circlip sits on top. There's a little groove in there. Just see it shining. So that's where that circlip sits. And on the other end, you've got the spring. Now, the spring has a rubber boot, and that pushes against the bottom of the plunger. So fluid is the other side of that seal, and the spiral must just be to regulate the fluid a bit, stop it banging the seal hard with pressure, so it probably takes the pressure off. I don't actually know that, I've never thought about that. And then that bottom rubber boot is a secondary seal within the master cylinder, and then the spring is what gives you a return on the lever. Now inside you can't see, you might just see, no you can't see, there are 2 holes. So there's a lot inside that bit, underneath the rubber seal there's another circlip and an O-ring which the spout has a wide base and pushes into, and there's a large hole, 2 or 3 mils, and a tiny pinprick hole, I don't know, thick, little bit thicker than a human hair hole, and that's an air hole, so it doesn't vacuum. So the large hole lets the fluid in and the other hole stops the vacuum. And sometimes when you can't get your brake to bleed, the little tiny vacuum hole is blocked, so you need to get little wire. I use a little wire out of a wire brush and just push that in. I've done that, that's why the wire's handy. So that's sometimes what's wrong with a brake. People bleed them and can't get them to work. That hole is blocked, the little tiny pinprick hole. Anyway, that all goes in there with a circlip on like that, and the rubber on top of that, and then the plunger, circlip, hold it all in, and then finally you've got a rubber boot which pushes over and seats underneath that groove, and then that's out to the outside world, pushes on your lever. So that's it basically. I can't really show you me putting it together because there's not a lot to see and my hands will be in the way, but it all goes in that order. If anybody's ever wants to do it and been scared to do it, goes in that order like that. It's quite simple. All you need to do is lubricate the 2 seals with some brake fluid, and you need some squeezing circlip pliers like these, and then they squeeze the circlip which closes it up and enables it to go in the groove. So that's all you need, that and a bit of brake fluid. So I'll put that together now. I've cleaned the lever up. There's the lever. I'll give that a good clean. It's fine. The only thing I've lost is the chrome off the adjuster. So, but the rest of the lever is sort of patina correct. So I was tempted to put a new one on, but I've just cleaned that up and it looks fine. It'll be perfect for this bike. There we go. I'll show you it all when it's complete. That's all done now. You should be able to see there's the circlip, the washer underneath, and we've got a nice positive action there. That was absolutely sea solid with old brake fluid before. So now, oh yeah, that's lovely, smooth as anything. You can actually use the plunger again, to be honest, but when you buy a kit it comes with it anyway, so you may as well use the new one. So I've got literally tens of those, because I've done that when I break master cylinders over the years. I must have a dozen of those at least. So all I need to do now is fit the boot over the top like so. So that sits in that groove. You can see that sits in that groove there. So that's all protected. Just need to fit the lever and that's ready to go on the bike once the forks are on. I'm just doing the cleaning up this front end, so the bit that goes inside the front fairing, the top nose cone. So I know we're not painting anything if we can help it. So I've literally just cleaned that subframe. I've cleaned it and given it a quick polish. So that is extreme, what's the word I'm looking for? My fussiness over keeping it a patina bike. It seems reverse psychology, doesn't it? But yeah, I was dying to paint it, because if you look closely, yeah, I was dying to paint it, but I'm not getting sucked in. That's not what Rob wants, so that's left alone. So we go back to the front. This subframe that holds the nose cone on and the headlight, yeah, it's rusty, as you can see. I'm going to clean it and polish it, and that is it. It just doesn't feel right to me, because I'm so anally fussy about bikes being immaculate and mint and everything being as it should be. But it's a great little project. It's good for my psyche. It's good for my OCD with bikes. So I'm going to whip this subframe off now, and I'll clean all the wiring, and I'm not even going to take the clocks off. I'm just going to give them a clean, and I'll clean the loom in there. The horn's going to get a little bit of treatment. So yeah, it definitely goes against my instinct, but this is where we're at. And a day later, that looks a lot better. Just a good scrub, clean, retaped a bit of the wiring down here on that indicator, cleaned up the horn, no paint, just cleaned it, got a lot of the rust off. Subframe, no paint, as you can see. And I'll give the clocks a quick whiz, just scrubbed them with some degreasing and a toothbrush. Not gone mad, just cleaned it, and they need a polish, but they're good. I'm just going to take those two screws out and give them a clean. The top yoke will do near the end, because there's a lot to go in and out and come on and off of it yet. So I did give that clutch cable bracket just a quick dust over, because that was very rusty, and it just looked a real mess. But as you can see, I've not gone to town on it. There's still bits and bobs of patina and tarnish on it. Yeah. So the next job, I'm going to just strip this handlebar, clean up the screws, clean up the bracket, and clean the lever so it matches the right hand side. And then I'm building the forks. Literally new seals, new oil, good clean. I've not even took them apart, they're just going straight back in. I'll show you that when it's, well, I'll probably show you a bit of the process of that actually. Okay, right. The tricky task of upside down fork rebuilding. So I have got a universal fork seal kit which helps massively. You're stuck without it, and they're only about £25, so they are probably, I have done it without in the past, but I always struggled, so I've invested in one of those recently. Anyway, so we've got the upside down fork, we've got the new chrome stanchion in, as you've seen. The foot of the bottom of the fork leg, whatever you want to call it, is on. So now we've got, start from the top end. You have to put, actually, before you put the Teflon coated collar at the top of the fork, you have to slide. So think of it, the forks, it's like a right way up fork, but they're the wrong way around. So you've got your dust seal, brand new fork seal, the collar, metal collar, the metal washer, and then the anti-friction collar, which I've got a little trick for that as well. You need a special tool for that really, but I've got a trick for that. So that little collar, oops, goes into that recess there. So that collar goes into there, but obviously it's a bit expanded, so you have to compress it. So I do it with a tiny cable tie, and it has to be a tiny cable tie because by the time you put the leg in there, there's only a small gap around the side, so the actual bit of a cable tie that has the ratchet in it has to be tiny to slip down the side. You'll see what I mean when I do it. Anyway, oh, and then there's the, let's just move that again. Then there's the retaining ring spring clip, which goes there. You don't have to put these on first, because what they do is they slide up and down. You can just open them up because it's spring steel and slide it over the fork. Okay, so I've put cable ties around the anti-slip Teflon coated collar. It's Teflon coated on the inside. Now the trouble you have is the bigger cable ties, which hold them better, are fine, but the locking part of the cable tie won't fit down the side. So you have to use the smaller ones. I mean, like I said, there is a special tool for this, but this does the job fine. As long as the collar goes in, and then you can push it down flush, but you push it down before if it's tight enough. But you can push it down with that as well, with the fork seal drivers. But this should do the trick, so I'm going to cut off the big cable tie, and the little cable tie is holding it tight, so it's really stiff, as you can see on the tube. So it should be plenty tight enough to go into the, you can't really see in there, to go into the recess. Right, the seal is in, the little clip is into its groove holding the seal in. Now it's just a matter of pushing down the dust seal. It literally just pushes in like that by finger. That's it, done. So we're all good there. So now it's a matter of fitting the internals. Right, so we've got all the top part with the adjusters and O-ring to hold at the top of the forks, the rubber spacer, I'd call it, dampening spacer. Then there's a washer, the internal of the cartridge there, and the outer of the cartridge, and then we've got the spring that goes over, and at the bottom you can see there's a thread, and that sits over the thread. The spring sits on that flange there, and all that goes inside the tube. So what you have to do is put this little collar shim thing in, and that goes to the bottom of the stanchion because there's a hole in the foot, and then that retaining bolt screws into the bottom of there, it'll get a new copper washer on it, get one the right size, and then with a bit of thread lock on, and once that's in place, I'll unscrew the top again, this bit, and put 429 millilitres of oil in it and pump it to get the air out, and we should be good to go. Well, the forks are in. My little videos of filming of building them makes it look easy, but I can tell you I'm not a suspension builder, but I think I've got there. So they're all in place. I've set up all the settings, put them all to like middle on the preload, and I've set the rebound to middle. I think it's 10 turns out of 20, and I've set the, there you go, I've set that one, which is the compression damping, to the middle. I think that's 8 out of 16, so all good. So I'm going to get it on a different stand which goes underneath the forks, which is a lot safer. Then I'm going to start looking at the engine as the bike's more stable. So that's what I'm going to do next. Don't know where to start. So this episode shouldn't really be an episode, because I'm having to do something that I didn't think I was going to have to do. So the story is, I tried to, as you know, I told you previously that I wanted to take the power valves out, as on these early VJ22 RGVs, the power valve, 3-stage power valves, are a real weak link. They have real soft material, and the centre pin, the cotter pin, if you like, wears and wobbles and makes the hole longer in the centre, the centre part of the guillotine. So eventually it causes a crack and they drop in. And ask me how I know this, because my Aprilia did it on the racetrack and high-sided me, and I landed on the floor and the bike landed on top of me. So I know what happens with these things. So it's essential on these earlier VJ22s, because on later ones they updated the pin, made it thicker and stronger so it wouldn't wobble. So the plan was to get the power valves out of the bike, out of the engine, with it all in situ. But this RGV-SP had other plans in store for me. So spot the unintentional part of this video already. You'll notice that there's no bike draped around this engine, and I've had a busy hour and a half this morning extracting this engine, this beautiful engine, albeit dirty, out of the bike to enable me to extract these, the seized in power valves. And you'll notice the retaining, there's one retaining screw there, how manky it is, and that one I've not tried, because the top cylinder I could get at, but the bottom cylinder, with the engine being at 90 degrees to the ground, this bottom cylinder was effectively 6 inches off the workbench. So I was trying to get in and release those screws there, that one, and there's one up there. I mean, they were that carboned up, I struggled to get the shaft out, that shaft there, but I managed it on the bottom cylinder. But then it quickly dawned on me that I wasn't going to be able to get the power valves out without really struggling and damaging things. So this is where we're at. And I didn't really want to go this far with this bike, but we are. This is where we are. So at least it's come out smoothly. No hiccups releasing the motor from the bike. So today's plan is to mask up all the entry points to the engine, which is the 2 carb inlets, the power valve. I might even just put the covers back on those. The power valves, the exhaust ports there and there, and then we should be good to give it a damn good degrease for this unplanned episode of RGV250M-SP Recommission. The bike looks quite bare now, as you can imagine. So I'll go ahead, mask it up, and we'll do a degrease, and I'll show you the efforts when I've done that. See you in a bit. Right, so it looks quite a bit cleaner. Don't be distracted by around that power valve plate, because that's coming off and that'll get proper clean, but degreased wise it is a lot better. I'll just spin it round. There's a bit of tarnish in there. That's cleaned up down there a lot better. All around that was covered in gooey oil and dirt, and I've literally given the barrels a quick scrub with a fine soft wire brush underneath cleaner. So the plan now is to take both barrels off while the motor's on the bench. It doesn't make sense. I'm going to leave the heads on because head gaskets are £132 a pair. So unless I see something I'm really not happy with, once I get the barrels off, the heads are staying on. I've just put old spark plugs back in at the moment. So when the barrels are off, I'm going to measure the piston ring gap. So I'll take the pistons off, clean them up, check them. If the gap's too excessive, it's going to get a set of rings on each cylinder. If the pistons are all right, and obviously take the pistons off, may as well do the small end bearings, and I'll just give the crank a quick check. But it ran fine, it sounded okay. I'm not expecting anything untoward there. And then the other thing I'm going to do is strip the power valves out. As discussed, I'll put the covers back on for cleaning. So I'm going to strip the power valves out, and they will need a good decoat and clean. Hopefully they're in okay condition. Just remove the bottom lower cylinder, and yeah, the piston's got quite a bit of carbon on top, but it is in really, really good condition. Considering this bike's done 28,000 kilometers. I'll be measuring, like I say, I'll be measuring the ring gap, but look at all that. Wow. I have flushed out the barrels and the coolant system when I degreased the engine, but yes, lots of sludge, calcified sludge. I've just measured, I've got this piston out of the cylinder over there, and I've just taken the rings off. I mean, this bike's done 28,000 kilometers, which is what, 16,000, 17,000 miles, and the piston, without a word of a lie, is like something out of a bike that's 2,000 miles old. There's no wear at all on this piston. Okay, carboned up on the top, but that's what you'd expect with this mileage. And I've just measured the rings. I've put them in the balls and made sure they're square, pushed them down with the piston. And I've got the feeler gauges on them, and they were both at 0.3 thousandths of an inch. And I've just gone and checked piston ring end gap. So standard, before, when the engine's brand new, there should be 15 thousandths to 0.3 thousandths of an inch, I think. Unless that's, yeah, that's right, that's right. Was it millimeters? No, it's millimeters. So it's 0.15 of a millimeter to 0.3 of a millimeter. And both these piston rings are at 0.3 of a millimeter. So if these are standard piston rings, so you'll see there as well, they can go to 0.7, which is more than double the gap. So if these piston rings are the standard rings and piston in this bike, that means they haven't worn further than what they would be new. Wow, that's just blown my mind. And there's no evidence that this bike's ever been apart, because it had the standard base gaskets on, the threads on the cylinder, just perfect. So I think this bike, I mean, it's a good bike obviously, but it's absolutely 100% genuine, and just goes to show the quality of the workmanship originally. Well, that's blown my mind, that has. There's the small end bearing and shim, so I'm going to change the small end bearing as a matter of course, and the piston pin. Right, see you in a bit. Okay, so I've got the one set of power valves out, very carboned, lots of carbon on them. I've seen worse. This bike's been running really well, as I showed you the pistons earlier. It's been running really well, so I've just cleaned up the cylinder. I don't know if you can see in there, that's all fairly clean. Cleaned up the exhaust port. The bores on these cylinders, it's still got the honing on, so it's really good. It's a good bike, this. So back to the power valves. I'm going to take these apart and investigate them. I'll show you what I find when I take them apart, hoping that middle guillotine isn't cracked. That's all we're looking for, and no wear on the holes. So let's see what we find. Yeah, I'm actually quite shocked to find that they're absolutely perfect. Usually that pin starts to rock and elongates the hole and then forces that to crack, and then they drop into the cylinder. Ask me how I know this. One of mine cracked while I was racing an Aprilia RS250, and this piece dropped into the cylinder as I was going around a 60-70 mile an hour corner. So the bike seized, high-sided me, and then decided to land on top of me at the same time, which was pleasant. So yeah, these power valves are in good condition. Incredible for the mileage of the bike. So it literally is just a clean-up job and get them back in the barrels. Then it's a matter of waiting for piston bearings and gudgeon pin, etc. Then we can get it all back together. But success, I would say. I'm relieved. Okay, that's one set power valves for one cylinder clean, so they're ready to go back in. Clean the little springs, the bar, it's like a washer with prongs that holds the springs in. I've got some new washers. Now, one thing I will say is those 3 holes there, 1, 2, 3, that's where these screws go, and they notoriously seize in the hole. You can see the white residue on the thread. I got one out with a screwdriver. I usually use my impact driver, but I broke a bit on the impact driver trying to get them out, so I thought, rather than hitting them too hard, that's the one I got out, I'm going to tap them round with a centre punch. There's the hole. So I always, little tip I always do here is I always replace them with some brand new Allen key bolts like that. Makes them much more resilient for getting out, and you don't have to do them up too tight. So regular servicing of power valves every few thousand miles is my tip. So they're going back in there like so, and then I've got the other cylinder to do. So that's a complete set of clean power valves. You'll notice the little spring, 2 springs, all clean, lovely to go in. Oh, look at that. How easy was that? Why did it struggle first time? So they're in, and then that retaining, it's a funny thing. They're like, there you go. Can you see that? Is it focus? Focus. There we go. So that goes in. Supposedly. That goes in like that. Is that in? Be easier with pliers. There we go. And then nice new shiny screw and washer. It's so hard doing it one-handed. I should just use the tripod. These are those new gloves. So you've seen the ones with no ends to the fingers. Well, this is that new type, no thumb at all. So you get your thumb nice and dirty. So we just nip that up. Not, as I say, not too tight. And I'll do the other 2 screws there. And then it's the shaft through. So I'll show you that when that's all in place. So that's everything in place. The pulley wheel, the retaining spring, the plate for the cables, power valve cables, and the marks on the, see the marks for setting up the power valves. So all that remains to be put back on is that washer and that nut, which that one, and the little grub screw that goes in there, which is the actual arm that lifts the power valves, like so. So there's a hole in that shaft with the thread, and that grub screw gets Loctite on it. So I'll do that now. That's it. Cleaned up cylinder, all nice clean exhaust port, power valves in place, new Allen key bolts retaining them, all lovely and clean. So this is how they work. So 3-part power valves on a VJ22. So if you turn it, it's pretending the cables are pulling it. So half fully open. But that is all done as a transitionary, smooth operation when the cables are attached. It's a bit jerky when they're not attached. So that's it. Just the other set to do. Cover to put on, just waiting for gaskets. And waiting for gaskets for the base gaskets. And the parts for the pistons, and that's it. Put the engine back together. Hopefully you've learned something, guys. I've done hundreds of these, literally. So it's second nature, but if you've never seen them in operation before, it's probably quite handy to see. I'm moving on to the cleanup of the back end. I know it's quite dark in there, but look at how filthy that oil tank leak has made the swinging arm. The transformation in this is going to make me look good, but it's shockingly, it's shocking. I'm going to change the rear shock. I think I've said that before. Just move around there. Yeah, it's not great. I've got one here that I've cleaned up that Rob provided. It's not been painted or anything, it's just literally been cleaned up and it looks quite nice. So yeah, changing that, swapping that rear shock out, cleaning all around this swinging arm. Gonna take the adjusters out, chain adjusters out, give them a really good clean. So what will be seconds for you, but hours for me, transformation coming up. Can't be hard to make that look better, can it? Quite a few hours later, and the replacement shock absorber is in place. Can you see it there? I've cleaned up the linkages underneath. It's not mint clean before anybody says anything, because it needs to be re-zinced. But I've cleaned up everything up as best I can. The swinging arm, as you'll remember from 2 minutes ago, was absolute disgusting. But I think I've done all right. It's quite clean now. It needs vapor blasting really, but it is not a restoration, it is a recommission. So hopefully, chain adjusters all cleaned up. I'll just go around the front. It's not perfect, I know, but it is a lot cleaner. There's the shock. Right, onto the engine. Well, this is as far away as it gets, so it's all uphill from now on. So the rear shock is in. There you go. Swinging arms all cleaned up as best I can. These are just my wets and wheels off my track bike. Forks are looking better. Front end's all cleaned up. All that loom there and everything else is clean. Battery box is all clean. Tanks are clean. So yeah, this is the furthest point of the bike, but it's not that far from getting back to a complete bike, believe it or not. I know it doesn't look it, but the engine will be built tonight. Engine back in this week, maybe early next week. And literally then it's a matter of tyres on the wheels and building everything else up. So not as far as it looks, believe it or not. Okay, so you'll notice the engine is back in the bike. It's quite clean. Exhaust pipes are on. Gear linkage. All the carbs are back on again. There we are. Radiator's on. It's not easy to see in here now. So I've just got my wets off my track bike in at the moment, just so we can roll around. Power valves are all rigged up there, down there. So where I'm at is today's little exercise is going to be finishing the brakes off. Well, sorry, not finishing the brakes off, getting the brakes reinstated. Because I put all the pipes on, the right hand footrest hanger is in, cleaned up. I know it doesn't look cleaned up, but it's a lot better than it was. Obviously, no vapor blasting. But little things like these clips, they were just pure rust. So now they're looking a bit better. I've rebuilt the master cylinder, all seems fine. Well, find out properly when the fluid's in. So now it's brakes. And here they are, the 3 calipers. So the rear caliper's got a bit of oil on it. The rear caliper's rebuilt. Front calipers have been stripped and rebuilt. Everything cleaned up. Looking okay. Not mint, but in keeping. A few little brackets, that's for the rear brake hose. And I've cleaned the front hoses up. I just need to clean up this union for the rear hose. Clean up that end as well, and then that's it to go on. So watch this space. Morning. Well, we're back at the squash club where it all started with this RGV250M-SP. So I brought it down to these beautiful surroundings again. It makes a lovely backdrop for filming. So the bike's in its naked form before I put all the plastics on. So I thought I'd show you around what's been done with the bike and what I've achieved and see where we're at with it. And we might even have a little start up. How about that? Well, here she is. No clothes on. Sorry about the wind again. Always a bit windy down here. Anyway, hopefully the bike is looking a margin better than when we first introduced it down here at the club. The first thing you can probably notice, the main thing is how clean it is. The swinging arm, if you remember, was absolutely caked in 2-stroke oil that had dripped. I think it had come out of the bottom hose, because the bottom hose was disgusting, and all over the swinging arm there. It was black. It was underneath, all over the expansion chambers. It was absolutely everywhere inside the swinging arm. So I've had a really good deep clean. So we'll start at the outset. The main thing you'll probably notice is the wheels. I could not leave. We wanted, as I've said from the start, we're going for patina on this bike, keeping it original. So keeping the processes down, no paint work, just clean up what we've got, clean up all plastics. But the wheels were beyond patina. Virtually most of the paint was either flaking off or was about to come off. So if we go close in, I mean, the catalyst for it was obviously the wheels, but I've only rattle canned them. I didn't want to go down the powder coat road because it's too thick sometimes. Depends who you get to powder coat them. Obviously the bike needed tyres, so we've gone for the, I don't know if you can see that, the Bridgestone Backlax S22s. They're a real reasonably priced tyre and a lot better than what was originally on the bike. Now I said the bike was naked, but obviously the mudguard's on it. And the reason for that is you can't get the mudguard on with the front wheel in place. So you have to fit the mudguard. Otherwise, you're taking the wheel in and out, in and out. So, one of the only bits of, well, it is the only piece of something that's been cleaned up like I would do in a restoration, are the fork bottoms. You'll see in a previous video, I stripped the forks and took the fork bottoms off, which was the first time I'd ever done that. So it was a good little experiment for me and good for the bike. But obviously they look really good now. There's a little bit of dirt on them, a bit of cobwebs. So they've been done. The forks have been re-chromed. Just some residue from build. Forks have been re-chromed, new seals. These have been vapor blasted because they were rotten, but we've left stanchions. I took them to the vapor blasters to see if he could get back to silver, but he said it's too hard. So we just left them and cleaned them up. I've just cleaned the discs, cleaned every nut and bolt on the bike that I've had off has just been whizzy wheeled with a wire brush, just to clean them up. No rezinking. So we've even still got the original brake lines, the originality, all new copper washers. They were really rusty, the universal joints, so they've just been whizzy wheeled with a wire brush. Everything's just been cleaned up really. So if we move on round now to the dash, so same again, super deep clean. The switch gear came up absolutely lovely, not far from new. The left hand one's gone a bit, the yellow buttons have gone a bit, but they're still fine. I've not even touched the top yoke, literally just cleaned it. Head bearings were fine, give them a good test. So yeah, the forks, when I did them on that previous video, I just set everything to middle. So rebounds middle, preloads middle, compression dampings middle setting, so everything's just right bang in the middle, neutral. So the frame that holds the top fairing on and the clocks, again, I was really tempted to paint these bits, but no, just clean them. Same with this frame, loads of rusty patina on it, just cleaned it. Even the horn, just got a whizzy wheel. That is a re-zinced Union brake banjo bolt. The only reason for that was the thread had gone on the original, so because of rust, and the outside was chipping away. So that is an original Suzuki banjo bolt, but it has been re-zinced in the past. I've got a bit of a selection and collection of bits and bobs from doing all these bikes. Radiator, literally just got a wash. So that was in really good condition. So if we move to the cylinders, and remember how covered in fug all the coolant pipes were, and the cylinder, all the power valves. So the main thing on the bike I've had to do, because the power valves were seized in, I think I said on that video that I did about the power valves, I had to drop the motor out. There's no way of getting the power valves out without taking the engine out. I just couldn't. I couldn't work. The main thing was I couldn't work under there, that far from the ground. And so some of the screws that hold the power valves in were seized, so I had to tap them round with a centre punch and put new. I put Allen key bolts in. Somebody suggested I should have put fat head Allen bolts, but I've never had an issue in all the years I've had RGVs, because I do check the power valves on bikes quite regularly. Moving back, yes, the clutch. So it's that beautiful dry clutch, the legendary dry clutch. So all I've done is taken it out, cleaned every individual plate. The steels had a little bit of surface rust on, so I've just whizzy wheeled them. We'll see how we go. If it starts playing up, it's easy enough to change. So you just take that cover off. There's Paul, the groundsman. I had to just stop the video because his tractor was noisy. But his tractor is 1968, so it's older than me. Anyway, you'll notice the sump plug looks new. It isn't new. It's genuine RGV, but it's another one I had in stock because there was a blue anodized sump plug drilled in place. So whether he's done it just for appearance or he's done some track days on it in Japan, whoever's owned this bike before, who knows. But that is original. So moving along, the pipes, exhaust pipes, they've had zero paint from here. I just lightly rubbed down the front and just put some black ultra high temperature paint on just to protect them more than anything. But not gone to town, still left the patina. There's a buzzard up there. You can hear him. So, footrest hangers. As you can see, quite tarnished. Just clean them. Clean the footrests themselves. They always clean up well, but nothing's been done. I've not even taken the split pin out of the footrest hanger. I've just cleaned them up with a whizzy wheel and the spring, stripped the master cylinder because it was seized, but actually the master cylinder itself was in good condition inside. It was just gooey, crusted brake fluid, so that's just been cleaned. Original brake line, we had to get another one of those. It is still genuine original, but the one that was on the bike was completely blocked. It might have cleared with a brake line, with a brake sorry, not with a compressor, with an airline, but I haven't got one. It's on my list of things to get. Rear caliper, that's had a deep clean and a quick dust over with some paint, but I've left it patina really. As the same with all the disc, just cleaned it. The rear chain adjusters were really bad, manky. I had to replace one of the bolts, special bolts, but I had spares of them because the thread had gone on one of them. Yeah, painted rear wheel. I'm really pleased how they've come out just from rattle cans. So they've had a really good rub down and clean, and 2 coats of primer, 2 coats top coat, and a coat of gloss lacquer. One thing I have put in the bike is that little bracket there, which holds all the overflow pipes. That had snapped on the original bike, so that arm had snapped. Thankfully, I had a spare, so that has improved the bike better than when we got it. So yeah, then moving on to the swinging arm, yeah, you'll notice it needs a little bit more of a clean around there actually. I think that's with putting the paddock stand on. You'll notice that it's a lot cleaner. It took me hours using petrol, degreasing to get it clean. So all the back wheel was out of it. I cleaned the hugger up. That's had a deep clean and heat gun treatment, and then finished off with some wax polish. Move around to the top. The oil tanks had a deep clean, obviously. Footrest hangers up here, just cleaned. Haven't painted the plate. It really has killed me not to do this bike properly, but I think you'll agree, take a step back, it looks so good. And patina correct for the year. She's lovely and clean, it's just not too clean, not everything painted. So yes, I'm really happy how it's turned out. And it was as I've said previously, it's a real survivor, this bike. Everything was in place. The odd little bracket broken. So I was under strict orders, moving around to the back, I was under strict orders that sticker had to stay intact. That's the original manufacturer's barcode with the frame number, chassis number, and the model number. So it's an RGV250FL, a 3SH colour scheme, and there's the chassis number. The genuine small Japanese market only indicators, which is obviously correct. And there's the original toolkit and that little bag with the workshop manuals and a couple of bits of tools in there as well, which I was so pleased to find all that. So one of the main things I've done on the bike is change the rear shock. We had a spare that was in exactly the same shock, Japanese market, SP shock, but it was in much better condition, and it's literally just had a wire brush and rubbed down with Scotch-Brite. But the spring was in good nick, good order. I don't know how much we can see under there, but it's just in really much better condition. The other one was rotten, so it's still got the Japanese sticker on there, adjustment. So yeah, it's in much, you can see it's in much better order. Left hand footrest, literally just cleaned it up again. Same with the centre, with the side stand. Brand new chain of sprockets, so it's a decent DID VX chain. Probably what came on the bike, similar. This will be better because it's newer design, newer technology. It's a X-ring chain. I mean, all around here, it was disgusting. So that's all just been deep cleaned. And while the engine was out, I managed to give it a good clean all round. There was so much oil and gunk and grease and dust impregnated with oil on the engine, it was terrible. And it enabled me to clean the frame inside properly. So, sorry about the beeping, the truck's just turned up, delivery truck. So, and now if we move to the top, I spent many an hour cleaning all this wiring. I mean, I've said before that having that spare fuse packet, it even took me time to clean that. So I emptied it, polished it up, cleaned inside with a little brush, degreased. Brand new battery. That's the de-restrictor box. So, okay, yeah, didn't come factory on the bike, but otherwise it's restricted to 40 horsepower. Kept all the original cable, factory cable fasteners, all facing the correct way. So they always face down. Box had a clean, I had to put a new air filter in it. You saw the carbs, not much to see really, but all inside there has had a real deep clean. And had to put new bar ends on. That was one thing the bike didn't come with, so they are brand new, I must admit. But look fairly original, not too out of place. And little brackets for the speedo cable. It's quite a complex affair really, because it screws in up there into the speedo. It has this bracket which holds it at the top and the bottom, and then there's another bracket bolted into the bottom of the fork leg which holds it away before it goes into the drive there. So they're quite an elaborate affair, really, just for a speedo cable. I mean, the frame's still got lots of oxidisation, but I've just rubbed it down with Scotch-Brite, cleaned it all. It's never going to be immaculate unless we've got it dipped and Cerakoted. But yeah, that's it. That's the bike. I'm really pleased with how it's cleaned up. Really am. It's just the right level of patina and cleanliness. And recommissioning. It's the first one I've actually recommissioned rather than restored properly. They're usually in 100,000 pieces on the bench. But yeah, I'm really pleased how she's cleaned up. So I think the next thing to do is throw the tank on and let's go for a little start up, eh? How exciting. That's it with the tank on. That is another tank we had, because the first tank was rotten and the fuel cap was completely seized in and we didn't have the key for it. So unfortunately we had to replace the tank, but it's exactly the same. It's a standard RGV-SP tank. It's not in place properly yet because the rubbers aren't on down there. We had to put a new cap on it, unfortunately. So, but some things can't be helped. It is clean, it's just a little bit of grease on it. But I've used the Deoxy rust remover. You put it in, it's a litre of crystals with warm hot water, put it in the tank, seal it up, leave it overnight, and it eradicates any rust inside the tank. So the tank is actually immaculate inside now, which is really good. So let's go for a start up. Bike on. There we go. Neutral, light oil light. Chokes on. Fuel's on reserve. Well, let's go for it. See if she'll start. I won't even use the throttle. Running. And there's that lovely dry clutch rattling away. Lovely and quiet bike. It's over, lovely on choke. See if she'll rev. I think the carburation needs setting up. It only sort of runs on 2 when you can start giving it a bit. Spinning away. I think the tachometer needs setting as well, but it's still on choke. The bike just needs a good run, so I'll be doing that over the next day or two. So yep, there she is, RGV250M-SP1. Recommissioned. Just needs to get her clothes on now. One last rev. Turn the choke off. That's better.
might tick over, she might not. No, there we go. Ready to go. Now it's time to fit all these beauties. So we've got tailpiece, nose cone with the headlight built in, the two side panels and the V-piece. I've already cleaned up all the fasteners, ready to go on. So what I'm going to do is fit it all and film it all, but obviously I'll speed it up because it's going to be a long process. So I'll just do a bit of fast forwarded type film to show you all being fitted or already fitted, and hopefully we'll have a complete bike at the end of this. Looking forward to it. Happy days.